Welcome back to the SaaS Playbook, the podcast that gives founders and leaders in the B2B SaaS space a real platform to unpack what they're building, why it matters, and what the journey looked like to even get here in the first place. This episode is brought to you by Hera Digital, revenue architects who build the sales engines B2B businesses actually need, from top of funnel all the way down to conversions. Head to heradigital.com.au to find out more. Today's guest is co-founder and CPO of Aquila Clouds. It's a bit of a mouthful, that one, and my tongue always gets tied. A platform helping businesses stop wasting money on cloud infrastructure and start making smarter decisions across performance, cost, and AI workloads. They're live on AWS, Azure, and GCP marketplaces, already serving customers across North America, Europe, the UAE, and beyond. And with Andromeda FinAI platform, they bring Agentic AI into the mix with philosophy that says it all: agility without costly surprises. Desmond Chan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for having me on the show.
Desmond, let's take a few steps back and go down memory lane. Let's start with the founding story. You and your co-founder both saw the cloud cost problem firsthand in previous roles. Organizations just hemorrhaging money on infrastructure nobody was properly managing. What was the moment that went from this is frustrating, we need to go and build something about on this?
Yes. So yes, both of us, me and my co-founder CEO, faced this problem firsthand. I was working at a SaaS company where they would spend at least $500,000 on the cloud every month. And that is a very high burn rate for a company that was just making just a double digit in the teens, millions of dollars per year. And when I heard about that burn rate on the cloud, I was surprised, but later on when the company got sold, they only got sold for 1 times multiple of their revenue. And which is very weird. Usually that you would expect like 4 times or 6 times or even 10 times for the SaaS company, but they only sold for 1 time. And then later on I realized that, hey, it must be their EBITDA that is not, showing very well. And, the cloud costs are definitely driving down their EBITDA. And then and so they're not showing as a very profitable, and hence the reason, the company got sold at that valuation. And my co-founder, Sushikora, he also faced the same problem at his workplace. Someone actually blew his entire year of budget just because they left some machine around for a few days and it blew away their entire year of cloud budget. So it's actually very bothering for both of us. But at the end of the day, I was like, Suchet, why don't we actually build something to help this community? And we both saw, the early successes of the competitors, and we thought that we could do better. And that's how we started the company. Yeah.
It always comes down to experiencing a pain point great enough to be like, hey, there is something here. And it's important that we build something around looking after that segmentation of people. And I think businesses that last long over time has that in their driver, in their mission from the get-go. Not so much, we do this because it looks great or because we feel like people would need it. I feel like you've lived and breathed it and actually experienced how much that actually impacts the bottom line at the end of the day, especially when it comes to SaaS companies, because it's an area that not a lot of people really focus on, if I'm honest, to be fair, which means that a lot of cloud-based companies or cloud providers would kind of, I don't want to say for lack of a better word, but take advantage of that situation, right? So I guess there's always little pockets for every business. So, and I'm glad that it comes down to operating with integrity first and looking after the end user. Your team is very deliberate about not positioning Aquila purely as a FinOps company. And I actually think that's a smart call because FinOps as a category is crowded. It gets crowded fast, but how do you personally think about where Aquila sits, and what does that Andromeda framing, the Agentic AI angle, actually mean for how you go to market?
Yes. We just want to have a couple of tongue twisters for you, like Andromeda, Aquila Clouds, just to confuse people. No. Yeah, I was just kidding. So basically, yes, FinOps is a very important component in the entire landscape of cloud management. But in order to enable our clients to be agile and without costly surprises, it takes more than just FinOps. And it takes more than just a FinOps with infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or even SaaS. But these days, FinOps is going in the direction of Cloud Plus. Pay attention to how FinOps Foundation frames it. FinOps by itself is expanding, and at the same time, the need to complement FinOps is also expanding. In order to manage your cloud resources in a proper way, you need to understand how the performance of your workloads are. You need to be able to stop provisioning of certain kind of virtual machines or resources for certain cost centers. You need to be proactive in many, many ways. So, hey, like if you look at the entire landscape of like cloud management, it covers so much ground. I mentioned the provisioning. I mentioned well, I didn't mention yet, but governance is very important. How do you manage your tags, manage your different policies, provisioning policy, for example? Yeah, like so. In addition to FinOps, like hey, like we want to cover all the other grounds of cloud management, and also we want to be very accurate in terms of our recommendations. So like we do not want to stay in the realm of just infrastructure metrics analysis. We want to actually go into the application realm as well. As you see us evolving, we'll be taking in a lot more data, utilization data in the infrastructure, application metric, you name it, to create the recommendations that we do create. Hey, like these days, agentic AI is the way of adoption right now, right? Like, people do not want to stay in the BI world, the business intelligence world. They want to be in the artificial intelligence era. And if we stay in the era of like just dashboards and so on and so forth, it won't enable our customers to be agile. They need to be able to use our tool very easily, and and also our agents will need to learn. And so far, we have one agent, which is called Sherlock, which provides talk to data capabilities, reveal all of the insights that we have, or like the analytics that we have done already. But as Andromeda gets stronger and stronger, we envision that in the galaxy of Andromeda, there are a lot of planets, a lot of stars. Each star is an agent, and they can interact with each other, and then they can learn from each other, and then there will be like continuous data feed into the learn. So we want to enable an autonomous agentic AI platform for the cloud management use cases, if we will.
Yeah, I think that's really because the reason why I sort of bring this up is because a lot of people, just to add to your point of the dashboard situation, it's great to have dashboards and it's definitely great to have visibility, but what are you doing with those insights? And most businesses, previously myself, if I'm honest, I would look at the dashboards, I'm like, okay, cool, right? But I wouldn't actually take any action to make those changes to improve the situation, regardless of what that situation was. When you deploy agents and sub-agents and you have a agentic ecosystem, you don't have to do it. You have someone to actually deploy and make those changes based on obviously the metrics, right? So for someone like me, particularly, it's a perfect fit. It's going that step further and saying, hey, we know you need to do this. You probably don't have time. Let us handle it for you. And that's another layer of really looking after that end user, Desmond, because when we look at SaaS as an industry as a whole, they're probably 9 times out of 10 focused on building the front end delivery product and not necessarily worrying about cloud infrastructure and management and use, right? So
Yes.
that's the perfect marriage of where Aquila Clouds come into place. If anyone's listening to the podcast and that rings a bell and red flags and say, hey, I probably should look at that, definitely hit Desmond up. We'll put everything that you need to know in the show notes below. So I wanted to dive in a little bit about your global reach because you've got a very diverse market being UAE, Thailand, the UK, North America, and some of those you stumbled into rather than planned for or actively planned for. What does that tell you about where the real demand is sitting right now when it comes to cloud cost and infrastructure intelligence?
Yes. So what I have observed in the last 6 years is that, hey, cloud is not a one-time phenomenon. Everybody is moving into public clouds, or vice versa. They may be using some private clouds as well. But all in all, the necessity of controlling the cost and making sure that your workloads are still working perfectly after some adjustments and so on, that need is global. For example, North America, I think that North America actually has a quite sophisticated the infrastructure and computer industry is actually very forward. And you would think that, hey, maybe our use cases are different here than the other parts of the world. But, very interestingly, the same scenario happens time and time again, in different geos for us. Everybody's worried about their cloud spend. Everybody wants to make sure that they are agile, they're lean, they do not spend more than they need to. And then, especially for the public companies, they want to make sure that they have cost allocation done in a way that the public can review and then and there's no error and so on and so forth. But hey, they cannot do this continuously using the manual approach, right? Humans cannot deal with hundreds of millions of lines, on a monthly basis, and we can easily make mistakes and so on and so forth. So the demand is really everywhere. It may come with a little bit of a change here and there, like the different public clouds, they have different adoption rates in different regions, but the problem is the same. And that's another reason why we want to cover as many cloud and AI platforms as possible so that everything can be in one consolidated tool like ours or a platform like ours so that the customers do not have to stitch the different insights together and then and do their business.
Again, another layer of thinking about the customer first rather than the reverse, which when I look at Aquila from a user perspective looking in, it does feel as though you guys genuinely do care about the end user because of that frustration in which you drove from when you were in sort of the space experiencing it. And there's something magical about that, and that needs to sort of be addressed, especially in SaaS, AI, innovations that change and move so incredibly fast. We tend to lose way of that human element and why are we building and why is it important? And it almost feels like you've actually got that feedback from clients or real use cases rather than Aquila trying to be complementary and have all these features and become a feature factory. It's actually doing it in reverse. And that is really what's going to drive because, there's plenty of cloud infrastructure and management businesses out there. But how granular, how much do you really care about the end user at the end of the day?
We care a lot about the end users. We have a white glove approach when it comes to every single customer. Most recently, we got recognized as a leader in this Everest group P matrix assessment for the FinOps products. And that, I think a lot of it was really from the feedback from our customers saying that, hey, their support is superb. Accommodate what I need in a timely fashion to listen and so on and so forth. Yeah.
We always talk about B2B businesses, but really it's P2P because people still run those businesses at the end of the day, right? And that's
Very
what the
well
human,
said.
right? It was
Yeah.
you got to look after the human. And I think that's where we sort of align really well, Des, is because okay, well, that's great. And all these flashy things are really nice. But what is the end user and what are we actually doing for the human behind all the tech and innovation? But I guess this is probably a question more for people who haven't experienced or seen Aquila before. But walk us through what Aquila actually does in practice, because you've got the FinOps side, the automated billing system for cloud resellers, and now the agentic AI agent layer. For a founder or CTOs listening who's never heard of you before, what's one problem you solve better than anyone else right now?
Yes. So with our Andromeda FinAI platform, or we should say Andromeda Agentic AI platform, we are the first platform that would enable agentic AI on the financial data across a very comprehensive suite of cloud and AI platforms. So out there, you can see competitors only catering to cloud infrastructure, monitoring and optimization. We do that. And we also do Kubernetes, Databricks, LM, token and cost monitoring and optimization as well. Optimization takes in the utilization data. And like I said, we're looking into the application metrics as well. So you can see that, hey, we're marrying application performance management with FinOps itself So we are actually this confluence of many different trends. And the goal is to really help our customers make a better use of their IT infrastructure or the cloud infrastructure or the AI platforms in a very cost-effective way and be innovative and be agile. And they do not have to think about, how is my project going to be in terms of cost? Is there any ROI? We make sure that companies can, our clients can actually move forward with their innovation, like I said, agility without costly surprises.
And because of who we serve and what we serve, we have to be agile. But
Yes.
I would like to add, you mentioned token management, and the reason why I say this because I'm coding every other hour, and I like to nerd out, right? And that it so quickly runs away from you. And I'm just, I'm one person in an organization. So imagine when you have multiple people in the organization who are also coding, and what does that really look like in terms of bottom line and EBITDA when we when we look at cloud management and infrastructure, right? So that's something that people definitely don't think about.
Yes. And our internal team, we were just talking about, hey, the cloud cost is escalating. We have been using that as a reason for our clients to listen to us. But now there is another train coming at a very high speed, even faster than the cloud cost. That is the AI cost. And how do you contain it? How do you have observability? How do you do more optimization around it? That is key in this era right now. And if anybody missed that boat, if anybody do not think that observability or visibility into their costs and then be able to tell, hey, this Jenny, who's the user who used this token, this many tokens, is Desmond who actually drove the cost up. He was just going wild on his LLM adventure. So, hey, there needs to be some guardrails and then some observability, some alerts so that the organizations can move forward as one unit and be comfortable with their innovation speed.
Definitely having scope, having visibility, but having control is key, I think, moving forward. Yeah. Now, you've mentioned you've been leaning on MSPs and resellers to GTM, but now you're pushing a little harder to direct sales. Who is your ideal direct customer right now? Is it more mid-market engineering teams, or something that's sort of like businesses that have outgrown spreadsheet-based cost tracking, or are you going into upmarket enterprise?
Both segments are good for us and like to work with the enterprise level companies just because hey, we like problem solving and we do not want to just have a product that's, just the same for everyone. We want to make sure that the customer's needs are catered to. And when we worked with a public company where they would really like to use our tool for cost allocation to the different cost centers, we worked with them on adding more dimensions into our data so that they can dissect the data the way that they wanted. And we did it very fast within maybe a couple of weeks. And we just enjoy that kind of agility with our customers. And then we want to build something that will work, that will be personalized for our customers. So that's why we hone into that market. And then we feel that that market actually can give us a better ROI as well. But it doesn't mean that, hey, we're giving up the mid-market because, hey, our product definitely can cater to that. It's just that at this point, we want to spend more time with the enterprises so that we learn all the use cases so that with everything covered at the enterprise level, I think that our product can be used and be very useful for the down market as well.
Yeah, I think it naturally cascades down to more single file use cases rather than sort of large. But if you're essentially capturing the bigger problems, the smaller problems, you've already sorted, already organized through.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it. Only this is coming from a sales background. A healthy pipeline is where you have 80-20. So 80% of those enterprise. So you have that ability and the agility to move not only from a financial comfortability standpoint, but also a constant learning standpoint. But those smaller customers or customers tend to keep things very interesting. And you tend to have better relationships. And a good balance is about that 80-20% mark. I learned a lot from my smaller clients too. It's funny because naturally they feel like they need more, but really they don't. It really gives you on your toes, right?
Right. Yes. So I totally agree with you. Like the mid-market and also the enterprise customers, they're both very valuable to us. So we'll see how we evolve going forward. Now we are a startup, experiencing this growth here, and we want to cater to as many customers as possible. So I will have to learn from you.
I'm sure we'll learn a thing or two from each other, right? Because I could definitely look into cost management best practices for sure. I can take a page out of your book. Now, you mentioned not wanting to put all of your eggs in the partner basket. Obviously, it still persists and it still remains. And I think that's the right instinct because partner-led pipelines are notoriously hard to forecast. But when you think about building a more repeatable engine, in terms of sales and front end sales, where does Aquila focus first? Is it a specific region, a specific use case, or a specific buyer?
Yeah, I think, just to echo the last question, we would like to look at the enterprise market segment right now. And just because, there are so many interesting use cases there. I mentioned cost allocation, and cost allocation can take many different forms and, for different workloads, different cloud platforms, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the scalability is crucial as well. When we try to scale up from our initial releases to where we are now, is really because the enterprises pushed us to scale up very, very quickly. The way that we design our database schema, the way that we aggregate the data, and so on and so forth, and really pose a lot of engineering challenges to us, and also the way that we treat our customers, or how do we quickly resolve those performance issues so that they can use our product. So they keep us on our toes. At the same time, the ROI is just there. So I think we enjoy that. And then the enterprises are probably the focus for the near term for direct customers. And the partners are still a very essential part of our channels. So I will report to you maybe after a year how things work.
It will be interesting to see that all unfold. But I do have one last question for you, Desmond, before we wrap up your episode. You're building in a space where the competition will tell you to just be louder or spend more on ads or lean harder into your cloud marketplace listings. But you and your co-founder clearly have a different philosophy. If you had to give one piece of advice to a technical founder who's great at building the product but keeps avoiding the conversation about how to actually grow it, what would you tell them?
So the way that we grew is really by paying attention to what's the current situation for us as a unique startup. If we follow the book of the other companies that came before us, right? If we just create those use cases and approach the market the way that they did, we wouldn't have been here today. I do not think. So when we went to market with FinOps, that module, we worked with one of the customers. They were reselling cloud, and then they had a problem with automation of their billing process. There is a very manual kind of practice within their organization. I can mention like the error-prone approach, or the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, so there's a lot of communication gap, and and data discrepancy, and so on and so forth. So they're like, hey, Aquila Clouds, I know that FinOps is essential, but BillOps is actually the topic of the minute right now. I need you guys to solve this problem for us. So we listened to the customer, and then we just built BillOps right away for them. And it turned out that is a very lucrative market. And then we looked at this situation, and then we said, maybe we can do land and expand. We actually work with these cloud resellers or MSPs, and then, be their billing engine, and then work with them to resell our FinOps capabilities. And that worked. So that's how we decided to go with the MSP first approach, a partner approach. And so there's quite different from how other people would do it. So I would say, my CEO always tells me, hey, Desmond, it's not like if you go get an MBA, you know how to run a business. You have to really look at the problem at hand and decipher it and analyze it so that so that you know where to go. So even though that you're in the same space as the other competitors, the approach can be very different for you. So I would like to share that with the audience.
Yeah. And again, it shows what you do, how you present the products, but also how you invest the time and the resources to actually build something. But again, just to summarize that, essentially focus on the customer end, the use case, their experience, and everything else will naturally follow, along with its own challenges, don't get me wrong. But I think that's what really the foundation of building a long-lasting business is, when you're always serving someone above what you're obviously trying to do. Desmond, thank you so much for this. Genuinely, the way that you think about the intersection of cloud costs, agentic AI, and long-term infrastructure strategy is exactly the kind of conversations more people in the space need to be having. For anyone who wants to follow Desmond's journey or learn more about what Aquila Clouds is building, all the links are in the show notes, but please go and show them some love. Desmond, thank you for joining us. But in the meantime, keep building meaningfully.
We will do. Yes. Thank you so much for having us on the show, and I hope to meet with your audience soon.